All right, I want to thank everyone for joining us. My name is Christy Emmerich. I am your bar president for this year. This is our second judicial forum of this year, and we are excited to help you meet your candidates for the Department 1 opening in Superior Court. As everyone is continuing to connect, I'll give a few minutes of announcements from the CCBA. The first one is we're going to actually host another coffee cart on Friday, April 16th. That's going to be over the lunchtime hour, 11 to 1. It will be at our new office, which is located at 904 Esther Street. So the same coffee cart that came out I think it was in December, will be at our office in April. So come by and pick up your free cup of coffee that morning. A little bit of information. After today's forum, we will be putting out our bar poll. That should be distributed hopefully this evening. The bar poll will be open until next Monday at 4 o'clock, at which point it'll be closed. The results will be tabulated, and then we'll be releasing those by Wednesday, April 7th. This forum is being recorded. So if someone was not able to attend this afternoon, they will be able to watch this forum. It will be available on the CCBA's YouTube channel, because we now have one of those. So they can view this at their leisure. Going forward today, the format for our forum will be as follows. Of our 8 candidates, we'll have 7 speaking today. They will each have 2 minutes to give a candidate statement. After that statement, we are going to open it up for questions from the audience. So if you have a question for one of our candidates, please notify me in the chat, and I can call on you, or I can ask the question for you. We will have 3 minutes to answer those questions, and then we will move on to our next speaker. We met last week and drew an order for speaking today. So it's a random order, and we will go through our 7 speakers. We're going to start with James Smith, and I'm just going to make sure we have no one else connecting, that everyone who's in our webinar is fully connected. So that looks like it. So James, if you are ready to lead us off, I would ask that you start.
All right, thank you,
and
Kristen.
If everyone else could turn your videos off if they happen to be on, so we can see James. Thank you. James?
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is James Smith, and thanks for the opportunity to participate in this candidate forum. It's impressive that there continue to be so many fine candidates from many different backgrounds and practice areas seeking appointment to the bench, and I'm honored to be part of this group. I believe that what distinguishes me is my trial experience, leadership ability, and character and professionalism that make me well suited to serve as a judge. As an attorney, my entire career has been devoted to public service and solving complex problems in and out of the courtroom. I currently work as a senior deputy prosecutor leading the child abuse unit. In the courtroom, I've tried over 100 jury trials, including 5 murder trials. I know my way around a courtroom and a trial and understand the importance of judicial independence and impartiality. I've also learned you can't predict a judge's rulings simply on the basis of what they used to do as an attorney. I've also argued many cases before the appellate courts with great success. I've helped lead large and highly complex public organizations, and I've also worked for years outside the courtroom with all sorts of people to improve the legal system for everyone. As a trial lawyer and as a leader, I've made many hard decisions under pressure and have a proven record of thoughtfulness and sound judgment. I volunteer for several bar committees and groups locally and for the WSBA. Within my office, I'm part of the Action and Reform Committee, or ARC, which works to address racism, inequality, and access to justice in the court system. I also serve as a hearing officer, a neutral decision maker for attorney discipline cases. The court faces many challenges: increased backlogs due to the pandemic, how to best integrate and use technology, and how to mitigate bias and improve public trust, among others. I have the courtroom experience and demonstrated commitment to these issues to immediately start working on them as a judge. And in order to be even better prepared, I've recently completed a 3-part WSBA CLE for pro tem judges. At every point in my career, I've tried to meet the highest standards of legal ability, integrity, and professionalism. I've shown a willingness to keep an open mind and to listen and learn from others. I pledge to bring the same approach to the bench and to treat everyone appearing before me with dignity and respect. I would work hard to decide each case fairly based on the law and the facts, and not bias, prejudice, or favor. I appreciate your support in the bar poll and welcome any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Do we have anyone who would like to ask a question? I will open up the chat. And so our first question for James is, what is your vision for the future of the judicial system in Clark County? Are there any changes that you would advocate for and why?
Sure. I think it's a really good and complex question. I think the simple answer is my vision would be a court that is equitable, that is impartial, and that serves the needs and the legal conflicts and issues before the court for all members of the community. I think increasing access to justice through technological ways, whether that's remote appearances where appropriate, or increasing transparency via perhaps streaming court appearances online, again, where available and appropriate. I think those are pieces of it. I think an also important part of what my vision would be to work with, as the court has done, but to continue to work with partners in the legal community and in the broader community to take in different perspectives and to make sure that the court is addressing the issues of concern in the community as they can within the confines of the Code of Judicial Conduct.
Thank you, James. Our next question is, if you could describe experience that you may have had dealing with people who are different from you, either socially, culturally, economically, politically, and how you handle that.
Sure. Well, I essentially do that almost every day in my current job. I think if you're a criminal practitioner, whether you're a deputy prosecutor as I am currently, or whether you're a criminal defense attorney, you meet with and you work with people from all walks of life. And the witnesses, victims, and defendants and families that I've had opportunities to interact with come from all walks of life. They come from all different backgrounds, demographically, culturally. Certainly not all, but a great many folks are experiencing poverty or substance abuse or other barriers in their own lives. So I've worked with all those people over the course of my career. I have worked in units that involve domestic violence, child abuse, and other significant crimes. And on occasion, I've met people where they're at. I've gone to people's homes. I've spoken to people in their backyard, in their dining room, sit down, have a cup of coffee. In a few cases, I've also traveled to jails and prisons to speak with people that were involved in the cases that I was handling. So I believe that I do have a background that has involved working with people that aren't like me necessarily. And that's one of the things that I enjoy about my job.
Thank you. And then finally, do you have any ideas on resolving the backlog created by COVID-19?
I have some general ideas, but what I try to do is I always try to take a thoughtful approach. So before getting out ahead of myself on that, I would certainly want to hear from stakeholders and from other judges and other people that have a lot of expertise. I think there are a number of proposals. There's a proposal in Multnomah County, and I think King County have begun using technology to try to conduct some level of trials. That's more difficult in some types of cases than it is in others. I think that has the most hurdles in criminal cases, but I do believe there have been remote trials occurring in family law cases here to some extent. And whether that can be opened up and applied to other cases or other parts of cases, I think is a conversation that I would be open to and something I would want to be a part of. I think perhaps triaging cases as well. But again, I think this is a complex issue and I don't want to prejudge it, but I would very much like to be part of the conversation and how we can try to solve that issue and continue to ensure the impartial administration and access to justice.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Casey Vu. Mr. Vu, your 2 minutes start now. In case I'm going to need you to unmute first.
That never happens, ever. I apologize. Like I was saying, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to attend this forum this afternoon. Obviously, it's very important, and I'm very pleased to be here and ask for you to support me in the upcoming bar poll. My name is Casey Vu. And I have applied for the upcoming vacancy on the Clark County Superior Court bench because I believe I have the unique qualifications and experience that have prepared me well for this role. I have the background, breadth and depth of experience, aptitude, demeanor to be a good judge for the citizens of Clark County. I've been a member of the legal community in Clark County for about 20 years, and I currently am a senior deputy prosecutor in the prosecutor's office. I have extensive courtroom experience, strong foundation in courtroom procedures and the rules of evidence. I've handled over 1,000 cases in my career and have tried dozens of felony jury trials ranging from property crimes and drugs up to murders, multiple murders. And in addition to my legal career, I've also served a combined 23 years in the Army, both on active duty and in the Washington Army National Guard, during which I served 2-year-long combat deployments to Iraq and retired from military service in 2016. I am married to my college sweetheart, and we are parents of a high school senior and a freshman. Many of you do not know, but I am a first-generation immigrant, more specifically, a refugee to this country. And as you can see, I'm a person of color. I've experienced both the good and the bad with regard to the opportunities and challenges that our country presents to people of color in general and to the immigrants community in particular. Recent events, both reported at the national level as well as locally, have demonstrated that our society, including our justice system, is far from perfect and that there's much room for improvement. So I have taken some actions to assist in rectify some of those things, including being a part of the Action Reform Committee, or ARC, in the prosecutor's office. And so I believe all of my experiences, both legal and in general, will make me a better judge than without them. And as a judge, I will be fair, patient, a good listener, and treat everyone equally and with respect. And I ask for your support in the upcoming poll and welcome any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. And our first question looks to, do you have any ideas or reforms that you would suggest to increase the access to justice for more members of our community?
Well, I think James has already talked about this, but it is a complex issue. It's an issue that I don't think that we have one single answer for. There's no silver bullet that's going to resolve that, because access to justice has been an ongoing issue in this state, in this county, in this country for a number of years. And it will continue to be a challenge for our justice system. However, with regard to access to justice in general, I believe that with the living through COVID and having to adapt to how we conduct business in our courts, I believe that through the use of technology such as Zoom and WebEx and other electronic means, I believe that we should consider opening up and allowing more of those opportunities so that people don't physically have to come to court, because it is a challenge for a number of people because they don't have the means or capability to physically appear in court. And if the justice system can accommodate those folks, then that, I believe, is one part of the solution. And so, we could look into other ways and means to help accommodate people's access to our court system.
Thank you, Casey. And another question is coming in regarding bail reform. If you think it's needed, and if so, do you have any suggestions?
Bail reform, again, is an ongoing issue and has been an issue for a number of years. I know that there have been a number of discussions and work groups to discuss what should be done or what can be done. And those conversations should continue. Again, I don't have the silver bullet or the magic solution. It is a complex issue because there are a number of stakeholders that I believe would need to contribute and provide input into how to provide a solution that is equitable for everyone involved, and taking into account obviously the needs and wants and desires and the goal of our court system, including the suspect or defendant's constitutional rights, as well as the victim's input is also should also be considered. So I believe there is room for improvement, but that is something that I believe that we need to continue to have conversations on and find solutions to that, because as we all recognize, the fairness of our judicial court system should not be dictated based upon a person's ability to pay. And so, having said that, like I said, I believe that there's room for improvement, and we should continue to work towards coming up with a more equitable solution.
Thank you, Casey. Our next candidate to be speaking will be Dan Lloyd. And Dan, your 2 minutes start now.
Thank you, Ms. Emmerich, and good afternoon, my fellow colleagues. My name is Dan Lloyd, and I appreciate the opportunity to introduce myself to you and explain why I deserve your vote to be the next Clark County Superior Court judge. I began my career in the same branch of government to which I now seek appointment, the judiciary, serving as law clerk to the Washington State Supreme Court. There, I learned the inner workings of our state's judicial branch, all the while helping author over 25 published opinions addressing a wide multitude of legal issues, such as criminal law, probate, constitutional law, evidence, open government, torts, statutory construction, and employment law, just to name a few. Following my clerkship, I joined a large Seattle firm practicing complex civil litigation before moving here to Clark County and becoming the lead litigation attorney for the city of Vancouver. In my more than 14 years as a litigator, I successfully represented clients while confronting widely varying areas of law, such as personal injury, contracts, employment, constitutional law, domestic violence, workers' compensation, land use, insurance, and class actions. Furthermore, I have served for over a decade as a neutral arbitrator for Superior Court, presiding over numerous cases while treating litigants and attorneys who appeared before me with respect and dignity while applying the law fairly and justly. My experience also includes filing over 24 amicus curiae briefs in cases before Washington's appellate courts, in addition to my own appellate practice. Those amicus curiae briefs have been filed not only in Washington's appellate courts, the Ninth Circuit, but also the United States Supreme Court. Quite often, these courts have adopted the arguments I have advanced as amicus curiae, and my service has twice earned me the amicus award from the International Municipal Lawyers Association. As with my work for the Supreme Court and the City of Vancouver, this experience has exposed me to areas of law many lawyers never have the opportunity to encounter. I highlight this experience because in a given week, a Superior Court judge can encounter every area of law imaginable due to the general jurisdiction conferred by law. This experience positions me well to serve as the next jurist of Clark County. I humbly ask for your support in the upcoming bar poll. Thank you, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you, Dan. All right, we are going to go to similar one. What is your vision then for the judicial system here in Clark County? And are there any changes that you would advocate for or that you would like to see?
I hope the legislature moves forward with what it has already done. As when I've come into the civil docket before, what I see often on the unlawful detainer dockets, particularly as this issue overlaps with the problem we have with homelessness, is I see tenants come into court on facing a stacked deck, and decisions have already been made before they even walk in the door, and nothing is quite explained to them very clearly. I have seen occasionally the judge not any of the current members of our bench, but I have seen judges before attempt to explain in very legalistic terms why they're now going to be losing their home. I find that unacceptable. I think if someone is looking to get evicted, that there needs to be a clear explanation as to not only what should have been done, but what needs to be done to keep their home. That's the one that jumps out to me more than anything in terms of access to justice, because when litigants or attorneys walk into a courtroom, and if I'm fortunate enough to be selected, walk into my courtroom, I want them to know that their case is going to be decided on the law rather than this uphill climb that can never be achieved.
Thank you, Dan. And the next question we have is, do you have any ideas for improving court procedures or court efficiency?
Yes. Well, let's see, we only have about a minute and a half now, so let's see if we can get through that. One, I would hope that our court could increase the number of civil motion dockets, because I think oftentimes they are so backlogged that it creates this 3-4 hour long hearing docket that becomes impossible to get through without speeding through all the cases. I'd like to see an expedited procedure for agreed orders. I'd like to see those complex motions probably get moved to the latter half of the docket more consistently, so that many attorneys and many families who are paying attorneys to sit in those dockets don't have to pay for waiting time. I think the waiting time, and that's one of the problems we have with access to justice because of how expensive it gets, likely because of how much we have to pay our attorneys on an hourly basis. I think that can be improved significantly by streamlining the way courts hear cases, and to get through them far more efficiently than what we do now.
Thank you, Dan. And that is about the end of our 3 minutes. So we are going to move to our next candidate, Nancy Ristinas. Nancy?
Hello, thank you. Let me make sure everybody can hear me okay. Okay, all right. So thank you for attending today, and thank you to the CCBA for organizing this forum and the bar poll. Lisa and Christy, thank you very much for your dedication to this as well. Our legal community has faced many challenges these past number of weeks and months. There have been many within the legal system, from lawyers to judges to legal and law enforcement providers, who have shown tremendous leadership, modeling a path forward toward needed advances in our justice system. It is both these challenges and the leadership I have seen that reinforce and deepen my commitment to serve as a judge in Clark County. You will be receiving my candidate statement in your inbox shortly after this forum, where you can access detailed information about my education, legal background, and my qualifications. So for this conversation, I want to touch lightly on a couple of themes: the role of a judicial officer and access to justice. A good judicial officer works hard to be prepared for every case, listens deeply, rules wisely, possesses equal parts intellectual curiosity and compassion. And a good judicial officer understands their role within the larger system of justice and the imperative to ensure true access and equitable treatment for all. The Clark County court system belongs to all citizens of this county, regardless of station, race, or situation. Yet the system presents many barriers to our underrepresented populations, and these barriers often go unseen by those who are not negatively impacted by them. This underscores for me the importance of consciously cultivating racial, cultural, and socioeconomic competency, both individually and collectively within the system, to bring forth necessary advances. And how are these barriers addressed? With accountability, transparency, and action. Some have asked in some of the prior candidates about changes they would like to see, reforms they would like to see, and there are many. I think to address one or two in anticipation of maybe a question. I would like to see language translation taken care of, as well as more access with regard to kiosk and self-representatives. So there's more I can address. Please ask me those questions, and I look forward to your consideration in the bar poll. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. And in fact, that will be the first question is, do you have any suggestions for changes that you could advocate for?
Yeah, so I mentioned a little bit about the language translation, having forms that we have a number of mandated forms, making sure those are translated in languages. I've appeared as a pro tem many times when we've had interpreters. We're there to enter court orders, and we have interpreters there. And especially during these COVID times, I am not always assured that individuals of other languages are understanding what they are being asked to sign or what the ruling is that has been made. So I've made adjustments there by asking the interpreters to set a different appointment time to make sure that the orders are read. So that's one idea. Secondly, and frankly, I think more importantly, is to engage the underrepresented populations, to have conversations with them directly, with folks who are negatively impacted by the system, who represent individuals who are negatively impacted by the system, so that we can create those connections and not feel so distant from what solutions are that we're going to create that may or may not be impactful for citizens who are negatively impacted by the system. Many other things I could address, but we'll go on to the next question.
Thank you. Do you have ideas for improving court procedures or efficiency?
Yeah, I appreciate Mr. Lloyd's comments about management of agreed orders. I think e-filing, not only for those individuals who are individuals represented by counsel, but by self-representatives who have some barriers to e-filing, that will help. Being able to e-file orders, perhaps. I think of the federal system that I practiced in many years ago and appreciated the system they had in place for presentation of agreed orders and e-filing of those orders. Certainly those kinds of things can be implemented. Scheduling orders, particularly in civil and family law cases, I think have a good impact in moving cases along, making sure that litigants are clear about their responsibilities with regard to discovery and witnesses and moving cases along. Increasing conciliation services that could include mediation and other types of conciliation services, whether it's in the civil or the family law realm, I think will be important to clearing off dockets. Certainly having more dockets might increase efficiency. I'm not convinced that it will, and we right now have a structural barrier known as our courthouse that has a limited number of square feet. So there have to be obviously more ways to increase those efficiencies that I would look forward to, if appointed, approaching with my fellow members of the bench.
And then the last question, Nancy, was your background in alternative dispute resolution. How has that prepared you for this role?
Yeah, so I appreciate that question. And the work that I've done in the dispute resolution realm, in mediation and arbitration as a mediator and an arbitrator, and also in the collaborative resolution of conflicts realm, helps do a number of things that are easily translatable to the bar, to the bench, from the bar to the bench. I've created that and work to continue to create that third eye of neutrality. When as a mediator and an arbitrator, you really need to unthink solutions and unthink positions that parties may be holding, so that you can really hear and listen to what they are needing from the system, as well as what their own positions are, in order to, in the mediator's role, I'm not making decisions, but certainly in the arbitrator's role, then layer back the concept of creating those solutions. Also, being able to listen really well and deeply is a skill that is learned. There may be some natural inhabitants of that skill, but most of us have to spend a lot of time learning that skill, and really being able to understand what underlies people's positions whether I'm in an arbitrator or judicial position or in a mediation position, understanding why people are coming to us with a conflict, why they're not able to solve it on their own, is important to helping sort through and compartmentalize and either help folks reach a resolution as a mediator or make that resolution for them with the law and the facts and all the other complex circumstances that go along with that.
Thank you, Nancy. Our next candidate will be Jeff Keddy. Jeff?
Hi, I just wanted to echo something that Nancy just said, which is that, listening deeply, I think, is really imperative to good judicial officers. And, in my experience with Nancy, she's a very good listener. So I just wanted to echo that. I want to thank the Bar Association for holding this forum and thank all of you for taking the time to evaluate applicants. I want to talk briefly about an applicant who cannot be here today due to a family commitment. She didn't ask me to speak on her behalf, but I did ask her if I could. And I think she would make a great judge. And so I just want everyone here to give her strong consideration. So Saren Cornell is an attorney with the Washington State Attorney General's Office. She served as a pro tem in both Superior and District Courts and has received exceptionally well qualified ratings from 3 judicial evaluation committees. And Saren is committed to improving the diversity of our bench, and she has just the type of commitment to equality and fairness that is necessary for our courts and our community. She sent out a blast earlier this week, and I just wanted to speak on her behalf since she was not able to attend today. My name is Jeffrey Keddy. I'm an attorney at Northwest Justice Project. I'm a pro tem judicial officer and an adjunct professor at Lewis and Clark Law School. I have not applied for the last couple judge positions because I also care deeply about the governor's commitment to increase the diversity of our bench. I think it is very important. I'm applying for this department though because the court is creating a guardianship and probate judge position that Judge Stankey will take over in May. I am very familiar with the new Uniform Guardianship Act. I have experience in guardianship cases, both establishing and terminating guardianships. I, along with Court Commissioner Jill Sasser, recently provided a 3-hour training to local attorneys on the new minor guardianship provisions of the UGA. And also in my regular job as a legal aid attorney, I work with many people who have disabling conditions and are pro se litigants. So I think my knowledge and skill set are well suited to this particular opportunity. But I also am currently a pro tem in 4 courts, both Superior and District Courts in Cowlitz and Clark counties. I've, over the last 4 years, spent about 400 hours on the bench, presiding over everything from criminal matters to family law and probate to involuntary treatment cases. So I have the experience in all different areas of the law and the commitment to fairness and equity necessary to be an asset to the court and to the community. And I don't know if we're allowed to do this, but I'll put my email in the chat if you have any questions for me, and you can just email me personally. And again, thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Jeff. And first question has been asked to the other candidates as well. Are there any changes that you would advocate for here in Clark County, and why?
So I think it's the court's responsibility to lead on access to justice issues. I think a couple of things that I see as real big needs. GR 33 is a way in which the court can allow people with disabling conditions to ask for and receive appropriate accommodations for their needs. And I would work on the court to ensure that we're meeting that obligation with people who have disabling conditions. I would have a particular focus, I think, on providing space for feedback from the community, having maybe some listening sessions or other ways in which information can be provided to the courts that would support us in increasing access to justice. I would pay particular focus on being respectful of people's cultures and identities. And I think there's a lot of things that have happened during the pandemic that have actually resulted in more access for people to the court systems. And I would work to ensure that some of those things continue, keep some of the technology that's made it easier for people to participate. But I think we have to acknowledge that some people, that's actually made it harder on them. They don't have access to the internet, or they They don't have a good telephone, and not being able to come to the courthouse can make it very challenging to them. So I think we need to do a better job of identifying those things that can work really well, but then also having space for people who those things may be challenges for.
Thank you, Jeff.
Mhm.
And the next question is, do you have any ideas to improve our court procedures, particularly or our efficiency in Superior Court?
Yeah, I mean, Dan and Nancy had great responses to that, and I would echo all of those. I have personally thought scheduling orders is a very useful way to move cases forward, and so I would encourage things like that. But I think the court can also just do more things to make the process more efficient. For example, in a family law case, when we appoint a guardian ad litem or family court, we can be much more clear about what we want that person to come back to the court with. Not ask them to look at everything, but ask them to look at the particular things that the court needs more information on, so that we can use these resources more efficiently, and particularly with the change that's happening with our family court services, the court's going to have to really focus on making that process efficient. So I think all of the things that were said earlier were all spot on.
And then finally, Jeff, how do you deal with pro se parties who appear in front of you in court?
Sure. Well, as a legal aid attorney, I do a lot of clinics. So I work with a lot of people who are going to have to go into court on their own and represent themselves. So I have, I think, a particular insight into what people are going through in those circumstances when they're acting as pro se. I have a lot of respect for people who are having to come before the court without representation. So that's the first, is just being respectful of their needs and their particular circumstances. But then also, I think being able to speak to the things you're doing very clearly is really important. When you make an order and you want the parties to follow through with that order, they need to understand it. You need to make it something that's very understandable for them. And so really being clear about what you're asking them to do, really being clear about that information can allow them to really follow your orders. I do see sometimes where a court will say, hey, I want you to do X, Y, and Z, and they'll speak very legalese. And then that person fails to do it. And it may just be because they didn't understand what that judge was saying. So it's really important to be clear with our litigants.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
We are going to move to our next candidate, Sean Downs. Sean?
Thanks, Christy. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Sean Downs. I'm from Portland, Oregon, born and raised. I've lived in the Pacific Northwest my entire life. I moved to Spokane, lived there for nearly a decade, going to law school, working there. I then moved back to this area to start a law firm with a partner. Since moving back, I met my wife. I've had 2 wonderful kids, and our law firm has expanded to now include an associate. So my professional background is mostly in regards to felony indigent defense in Superior Court, and to a lesser extent in U.S. District Court. I also represent indigent defendants in Superior Court on RALJ appeals, and the Court of Appeals and Supreme Court on RAP appeals and post-conviction relief matters. I also handle civil matters, mostly regarding landlord-tenant disputes, HOA and CC&R disputes, contract review, will formation. I also represent clients that are respondents in protection order hearings, and also represent indigent victims who are petitioners in protection order hearings. I've served as a commissioner pro tem for about 2 years now in Superior Court here on the juvenile docket. My role in the last 4 years has been as the president of the Criminal Defense Attorneys of Clark County. I work as the go-between for the defense bar and the Superior Court, and also the prosecutor's office. So it's a policy level engagement with different stakeholders. I've served on over 12 work groups in that role, including the Bench Bar Committee, Criminal Policy and Procedure Committee, Law and Justice Committee, so forth. So I already have a working relationship with the main players, with the community leaders, the stakeholders involved. The last 6 years, I've run an advanced sheet group with criminal defense attorneys. We meet every 2 weeks, discussing the most recent criminal cases that are published. I've had dozens of jury trials in Superior Court, dozens of appeals, post-conviction relief matters in the Court of Appeals, Supreme Court. I believe that this experience allows me to step into this role right away. Obviously, I'll be diligent in researching, reading everything I can for background information and cases I'm not familiar with and areas of law that I'm not familiar with. But I take this role very seriously. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sean. And the first question that has been asked to the other candidates, do you have any ideas for changes that you would advocate for here on our judicial bench here in Clark County, and why?
Sure. And there are quite a few that I've advocated for previously as president of the Criminal Defense Attorneys of Clark County. One of them is in regards to docket efficiency, how we're calendaring these dockets instead of having a mass cattle call, try and narrow these dockets to matters that are half-hour blocks or incremental blocks of time instead of having to schedule an entire 2 hours, 3 hours waiting at a docket. I think since COVID-19, there's the remote appearance via Zoom that's helpful for individuals that can't travel to make it to court. So I'm really pleased with the implementation of that. Hopefully that continues post-COVID. I think being able to handle matters off docket or without a party's presence is important, certainly with the implementation of CRR 3.4 that allows a waiver of a defendant's presence. I think that can help speed the efficiency of these dockets, being able to move through them more quickly. I think for pro se's, it's important to have forms available for them at the clerk's office. My ideas included having self-populating forms. It's possible in a lot of different matters. I think family law might be a little bit easier with certain forms that can be self-populating. I'm an advocate for a digital docket. I like the way that district court handles things. I know a lot of attorneys don't really prefer the digital docket, but I like having that electronic record right away. That's something that the clerks can enter quickly, and then the parties can get printed out copies right there. One thing that we've been working on in the last few weeks is in regards to a response to the decision, the Supreme Court decision, State v. Blake, and how to efficiently and effectively vacate and dismiss all these PCS convictions. It's going to be tens of thousands of cases that the Supreme Court, or excuse me, the Superior Court has to deal with. So we need to come up with some regular manner in which we handle these cases. Obviously I prefer it be sua sponte or something to that effect, but we'll see what we can do in the coming weeks ahead.
And then Sean, could you expand upon your civil experience?
Sure, I mentioned it briefly. So I've worked at a small law firm in Spokane Valley that did personal injury. So as a Rule 9 intern and starting out attorney, I worked in criminal defense and personal injury plaintiff's work over there. My first Superior Court trial was actually helping out on a personal injury case regarding damages with Allstate. Since I've worked in my own practice, we've been representing Teamsters clients, union clients through a contract. So we mostly represent them in matters like I was saying, landlord-tenant law, dealing with HOAs, dealing with wills, dealing with other miscellaneous civil matters that come up. So I do have that background.
Thank you, Sean. And we will now move on to our last candidate, Lewis Bird. And Mr. Bird?
Good afternoon. My name is Lewis Bird. I am applying for the judicial vacancy for Department 1. I want your support for that selection for that vacancy. I've been trying to accomplish this for many years now in Clark County. I've practiced for 31 years. I've been in Clark County now since 1998. That's 23 years that I've practiced law in this county. I think everybody knows who I am. They've seen me around the courthouse. I can't really go 5 steps from that courthouse with someone I'm acknowledging, hello, Mr. Bird. And it's been that way for years. I do want to end my career on the bench as a Superior Court judge in this county. I've paid my dues and I'm ready. My background consists of a pretty steady diet of criminal law. I've done that for years now. But I also have done a lot of education law, administrative law. I've done a lot of cases of civil dispute resolution or litigation, family law cases. I've taken family law cases all the way to the Court of Appeals. I've taken special education cases, children with learning disabilities, the development of programs for children, IEPs. I've taken those cases all the way to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. I've actually, in that 31-year period of time, I've actually deposed the 4-star general. United States District Court, District of Washington. I sued Science Application International Corporation, SAIC. If you Google them, you'll know that they have technology where they can read your what's on your wristwatch, what time it is. So I've had high-level litigation on numerous fronts, criminal and civil. And I think the individual that comes into this seat, Department 1, is going to have to know a lot about criminal law, a lot about dissolutions or civil proceedings, etc. And I do have that experience. For instance, in the 31-year period of time that I've practiced law in the state of Washington, I've appeared in Sultan County, Benton Franklin County, Columbia County, Spokane County, Garfield County, Walla Walla County, Klickitat County, Kittitas County, Okanogan County, King County, Pierce County, Snohomish County, Cowlitz County, Skamania County, Clark County, Jefferson County, and Pacific County. I've represented clients in all those courtrooms and all those counties over the years. I'm qualified to go into a situation where I'm an outsider and take care of the business that I need to take care of. I would anticipate that with the systems here in place, that the attorneys that appear in front of the judges will prepare the judge if they feel the judge needs specific information. And I can't imagine that a judge would not be appreciative of that and getting up to speed. It's all necessary. So, you know, my background is criminal, civil, family, administrative law, special education. I know those areas of law, and I would be able to come to grips with them, any issues pretty quick. As far as anything that I feel needs to be implemented nowadays, I think we are in desperate need of a settlement conference process in the criminal law areas. I have a certificate of dispute resolution from the Willamette University. That was a special endorsement that I received. I I would like to see settlement processes and procedures implemented in civil and criminal litigation here, just like in the civil arena where they have scheduling orders, especially in the this family law. You have the orders where you can actually try to come in and resolve a case, the settlement conferences. We need to have all of that in criminal law as well. So I'll defer any questions.
Thank you, Louis. Well, the first question kind of piggybacks on that. Are there any methods that you would have for increasing or solutions to increasing access to justice issues that we have here in Clark County?
Well, I mean, I think that it needs to be a joint venture with the Clark County Bar Association. The attorney should be in the business of increasing access to justice, and I think it should be collaborative, where the Bar Association could assist in development of some plans for low-income folks to have access to justice. I think it's very important of low-income folks, people of color that come to the courtroom to see individuals of color.
Thank you, Louis. And are there any, how would you deal with a pro se party appearing in front of you in court?
I would make sure that that individual had a firm understanding of what the next steps would be going forward, or where they could go to get information associated with what the next steps would be going forward.
Thank you, Louis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Louis. That concludes our time for questions for Mr. Byrd. All of our candidates have had an opportunity to speak. I thank everybody for their participation today, for the questions that you were sending in for our candidates, and for the time the candidates have given to this. We have an amazing slate of candidates seeking this position. As you notice, their depth and breadth of experience is amazing, and we are very lucky that everyone has taken the opportunity to put themselves out there in an effort to improve and continue to improve our system here in Clark County. So I thank all of the candidates. I thank everyone's for joining us this afternoon. If you are a member of the Bar Association, you will be receiving a bar poll. We'd ask that you take time in the next week to fill that out. The candidates appreciate that, as does the governor's office as they make their appointment. Thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful afternoon.